Hi, my name is Rayanne Porte and I'm a faith-based health coach. However you landed on this video, I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to be talking all about the fear of weight gain. First, we'll talk about how it enters the picture. Secondly, what's behind it. Thirdly, why it's so detrimental. And lastly, how to experience freedom from it. Let's dive in. First, let's talk about how the fear of weight gain enters the picture. And to do this, I'll pose a question. How do people decide what and when to eat? Well, there's a few different things that play into this. First and foremost, what's widely available? Things that are widely available here in the US are much different in other countries around the world. Secondly, what's in season? Foods that are grown in winter are different than in summer. Thirdly, what are your family's needs? If you are somebody that has a spouse and kids, you're definitely going to be making food decisions based around your family's needs in total. Also, allergies. Obviously, if you're allergic to something, you're going to want to avoid it. Next, what you like. Maybe you might like green beans, but you don't like broccoli. Or maybe you like cheese, but you don't like yogurt. So you're going to want to eat based on what you like and don't like. And lastly, hunger and fullness. When you feel like you're hungry and your body's telling you it needs energy, then you eat. When you're feeling full, then you stop. Well, sometimes other things, other factors come into the picture besides these ones that I just mentioned. So if you're somebody that over the course of the years, maybe perhaps there was a lot of talk about body size and shape in your household growing up, or over time, different messages from the media became rooted down regarding your body or what and how we eat or how we work out. If those messages became ingrained, there might be other things playing into your food decisions. And basically, the devil is using those things that have happened in your conditioning, which is basically your external environment, to tell you lies so that you form false beliefs based around these things, and then enters fear into the picture. And fear of weight gain is a really big one that's quite common in people that experience food and fitness struggles. So let's now talk about what is behind the fear of weight gain. And I'll use two different examples to illustrate how this played out for me. In the first example, I really just flat out denied that I feared weight gain. I was always like, no, I'm just trying to eat healthy. But really, over time, I began to experience a revelation from God that other fears were behind that fear of weight gain. And so why was I afraid to gain weight? Maybe I wouldn't gain somebody's approval. Maybe I wouldn't be perceived as healthy, or maybe what happens if I get sick, right? Or what happens if I just give up this constant striving towards a life of health at all costs? Thirdly, what if my appearance, like if I gain weight, I'm not gonna have this appearance that culture says that I'm supposed to have. And lastly, my circumstances. If I gain weight, gosh, I'm going to be perceived that I can't handle my circumstances, and then what? And really, underneath all of that, the devil was telling me a lie that my worth was in those things, that my worth was in my appearance, that my worth was in how I can handle my circumstances, my worth was in gaining other people's approval, my worth was in how healthy I could be, etc. And I wasn't understanding the truth, which I'll get to in a minute. In my second situation, when I had the fear of gaining weight, it was the exact opposite. I wasn't denying the fact that I feared gaining weight. I was literally like, fear of gaining weight? Of course, who doesn't have the fear of gaining weight? Isn't that how we all are supposed to stay healthy, right? And eat the foods that we're supposed to eat? That's like, of course, who doesn't have that fear? And in this scenario, what was underneath that fear was the sense of if I didn't hyper control everything I ate, my body would just be completely out of control, and that it would just eat. And if I gained weight, I would just keep eating and keep gaining weight, and that I couldn't trust my body. That was the lie that the devil was telling me, is that I couldn't trust God with my body. And so before I get to the truth, let me talk about why this fear of weight gain is so detrimental. And basically it's because our food decisions become not about all the things I talked about in the beginning. They become not about enjoying food or loving this gift that God has given us. They become about these fears that I talked about. And so we end up spending emotional energy, our food decisions, instead of bringing us joy and happiness, bring us frustration and overwhelm. And we just like probably end up feeling trapped in this struggle of trying to figure out food. And God does not intend for us to have a relationship with food in this way, not at all. And so he wants us to have a healthy relationship with food, fitness in our body that is, there's freedom there, right? That's what he wants. And so I always felt like in my struggles with food and fitness and my body, I was always either striving or failing. And again, God has a completely different experience for us when it comes to food and fitness in our body. And so now I want to give you hope. So the last thing I'll cover in this video is how we experience freedom from this fear and from our struggle altogether. And this is so exciting. Like, this is exactly how God helped me come out of my struggles with food and fitness. So there's 5 things to do to experience freedom. The first thing is go to God. This is such a beautiful thing. When we go to God, he has nothing but open arms for us. We can say, God, I have this fear. And what does he do? He says, I love you. Thank you for being so honest with me and having this fear. It's okay. If the devil's been telling you these lies, it's amazing that you've realized it, and it's amazing that you're going to me with it. So he always comes to us with open arms. It's exactly like the prodigal son. So the devil wants to keep us in shame about having the fear of gaining weight. And so when we go to God with our fear, he tells us, okay, you don't have to deny that you have this fear, which is what I did in some of my years of my struggle, but you also don't have to buy into it either, which is what I did in other years of my struggle. You don't have to obey it. And so that's the first thing, is go to God and say, I have this fear and I'm fully admitting that I want to give it over to you and I want your help with it. Second, he will show us the truth. What is the truth? 2 things. 1, our worth is not in all of those things that I talked about a minute ago. Our worth is in him. And this is what grace is. Grace, God says, I gave you inherent worth when I created you. You don't have to keep striving for other people's approval or striving to eat a perfect way or with your food decisions, you don't have to keep trying and striving to earn your worth. You have inherent worth. And so your food decisions can come out of that place of love and out of that place of knowing where your worth is, instead of trying to constantly chase after and achieve this worth that you will never get to, right? So that's one thing. Our worth is in God. Second thing is that we can trust God with our bodies. That was the other lie that the devil was telling me, is that yes, our bodies will fail us. We are growing old by the day. We are getting one day closer to being up in heaven with him. But while we are here, we can get to a place where our bodies, we can trust our hunger cue and we can trust our fullness cue. It doesn't feel like it right now because you probably are in this crazy cycle. But once we start to train our body back into honoring its hunger cue and honoring its fullness cue, we will get to this place where we'll see like, oh, our body isn't broken and we can eat all foods when we're hungry, right? And one verse that really helped me out in my struggle was the verse, seek him first and all will be given to you. So when we seek God first, instead of trying to do this on our own and trying to strive and figure out the solution to our own struggle, when we put him first and when we seek him first, it's all going to be figured out. And this is extremely counterintuitive to how everything else says that we should fix our problem with food and fitness. Diet plans say address the problem externally. Everything else does not say, take your focus off of food and fitness, right? To solve your food and fitness problem, right? That doesn't make sense on the surface. Oh, we should be thinking more about our problems with food and fitness to solve them. No, seek God and all of this, he will help us figure out. Okay, so third, he helps us give up our restriction mindset and our no restriction mindset, right? So in in my food and fitness struggles, I realized, gosh, this restriction mindset is just leading me to eat more. And I just keep striving. Well, what's the opposite of that? I must have this no restriction mindset. Well, that's not solving it for me either, because I just am feeling out of control. And I just am saying, well, if I'm not supposed to restrict, then I guess I can eat anything I want, whenever I want. And like that's not it either. God completely replaces our mindset around food, fitness, and our body with neither of those. Fourth, he reteaches us how to eat all foods when we are hungry. Granted, if you're somebody who doesn't have allergies and doesn't have sensitivities, that's where the all foods comes in. So he reteaches us how to do that, how to eat all foods when we are hungry, which for me was something that I had never tried. Like I had always known a life of trying to control my foods or trying to only eat certain foods or only at certain times. And so he teaches us and walks us through step by step, day by day, meal by meal, snack by snack, how to give up fear of foods, how to give up fear of gaining weight, and how to eat from that place instead of where we've been, maybe even our whole life, like me. Lastly, he helps us trust him with where our body is going to land in terms of weight. And so when we know our worth isn't in our weight, we give that fear over to him, and it seems a tiny bit scary, but we don't have to be afraid, because God says, Ryan, you can trust me, where when you eat all foods when you're hungry, maybe that means you might gain weight from where you're at now. Maybe that means you might lose weight from where you're at now. Maybe that means that you might stay exactly where you're at right now, but we can give that up to him and hand that over to him and trust him with that, because it's such a better place to be in than all of the overwhelm and all of the frustration. Okay, so what is the result? When we put all these things into practice that I just talked about, what will our food choices look like? Well, our food choices will not look like, okay, I'm grocery shopping later, what low calorie, no carb, all the things, gluten-free, dairy-free, not this. Basically, how can I eat an entire diet of vegetables while still also getting all the other things I need in life too, that my body needs to function, right? Like that's chaos. Like that's where we were at, right? Now we can eat, or now our food decisions are based out of, oh, I'm hungry. I ate lunch a little bit ago. Now I'm hungry for afternoon snack. What sounds good to me? An orange and cheese stick? Yeah, okay, great, done, right? Or, oh, I have to grocery shop later. What do we have going this week? Oh, for breakfast, should I have eggs, or should I have blueberry oatmeal? Or, oh, I kind of have a busy week coming up. Oh, maybe I'll do the eggs. Yeah, what should I do for my lunches? Ooh, what sounds good? Oh, let me look and see what's on sale. Okay, done, right? Like, what a difference. It's so exciting, and I'm so excited. Tell me your stories if you have any aha moments this next week, or you can always feel free to message me if you ever want to talk about your own personal situation, or if you have questions. That's all I have for you today in this video. I care about you. I love you. I'm praying for you in your own personal journey. I'll meet you back here next week. Thanks so much for tuning in.